You just got your first big boy or big girl job and moved into your new place. As you lay down in your bed at night, you feel great. Then you hear a random sound. Was that just your refrigerator's ice maker? Maybe it's just the neighborhood cat. Or it's a serial killer trying to get you, just like the movies. Okay, it probably isn't that, but I think we can all agree that it would be nice to know what's going on around where you live and see what's happening, and that might lead you down the same rabbit hole that I went through. Security cameras. Security cameras are one of those things that I knew I wanted, but was confusing to me for a long time. So I'm here to help you out with what I learned on my own recent security camera journey so that you make the best decision for yourself and avoid some of the mistakes and pitfalls that I've been through. I think the biggest thing someone will think about is whether they would want their security camera to be monitored or not. Monitored systems typically require a monthly or annual fee, but can encompass way more than just cameras that you access from an app on your phone. It can include things like door sensors, window sensors, motion sensors, and a company that's monitoring what's occurring at your home if something is off. I won't go into too much detail for this, but for a lot of people, this is a simple and easy to understand service. You pay and someone comes out, installs everything, and charges you a huge price for it every single month. Unmonitored security cameras are just ecosystems of cameras that you can use without needing to pay someone monthly. But now the opposite is true. You'd have to research your own cameras, systems, installation, and if you want them to be monitored, you have to find services that offer that. Obviously, if this video was about monitored systems, it would be very quick. Find a provider with good reviews in your area, get a quote, cry, have them install it, cry about the price again, and enjoy your new system. Instead, this video focuses more on the wacky and confusing world of the unmonitored systems. So when you're looking for your own cameras, you'll want to know what works best for you. A wired or wireless system. And you might think that the answer is more obvious than it is. Wireless. Duh. Who wants to deal with wires? But there's a huge trade-off. Wireless systems, which are super easy to set up because all you need to do is slap in a battery, find a place to mount it, log into the app, and now you're ready to finally catch your annoying neighbors enjoying themselves on your sidewalk. What, he thinks public spaces are for him to use? This is America. Everything's gonna cost something. Joking aside, it's really that easy with wireless cameras. But the problem with that is that they rely on batteries, meaning they typically only record when they detect motion, they require a decent Wi-Fi connection or signal to their hub, and require you to charge or replace batteries every once in a while. Some of them do come with optional solar panel attachments to help prolong the battery life, but that's also an additional cost and setup time. Wired cameras are a little bit more difficult to set up because they require wires running up all inside of your attic or outside the exterior of your home. You might even have to drill holes on the exterior of your home to connect them to their central hubs. But the benefit is usually a faster, more high quality, stable connection when accessing the camera, and the option to constantly be recording without ever needing to recharge a single battery. Wi-Fi systems are like a hybrid of the two. It uses a cable for power, but transmits data over Wi-Fi. So there's no need to charge them, but they still require being plugged in, and the connection is still a little less stable than fully wired solutions. Obviously, there are some scenarios where someone might be better off with one or the other option. I'd really focus on cheaper, versatile Wi-Fi cameras if I lived in an apartment, I'm renting a place, or I plan to move in the near future because it's super convenient to set up and remove and doesn't require a lot of modifications to the property that I'm staying at. But regardless of which option, wired or wireless, that you choose, something you have to worry about is where your footage of your neighbor's dog on your lawn is stored. Will it forever live on in a hard drive you own or on one of the servers of your camera's manufacturer? So consider if the camera system that you're buying into supports local storage, cloud storage, or even both. Most of the large smart home camera makers like Google Nest, Amazon Blink, or Wyze offer a subscription plan to store recordings in the cloud up to a certain amount of days, and some of them charge more if you own more cameras or want additional motion tracked features. However, if you decide to just look a little bit deeper, you can find camera brands that offer local storage, meaning you can store all of your footage off of a device that sits at home and not in the cloud. Keep in mind though that this means either inserting a micro SD card inside of the camera or getting a dedicated hub or NVR for every camera that connects to that hub. So overall, local storage is more expensive upfront, and if the storage device that you're using dies, you lose all of your footage and you'll need to pay out of pocket. But through this option, you control how long you keep the footage and how much storage you want to use without being dictated by the camera's system. So there's upsides and downsides to either of these options. But you can also find brands with both options that allow you to, one, store things locally on a device, as well as store things on the cloud through their subscription service. Okay, now that you have sort of a grasp on what you're looking for, you need to know what system to place your hard-earned dollars into. The two main things I'd look into related to camera systems is how these cameras work within their own ecosystem and how they interact outside of their ecosystem. So each camera brand has their own system that has their own unique features that you can only access if you use their app or products. For example, Google Nest cameras are only viewable on Google Nest or Google Home related products right out of the box, while products such as this camera from Aqara have their own dedicated app that controls tilt functionality and can cover the camera lens, but at the same time, you can use their cameras in Google Home or Apple Home as just cameras without those fancy tilt and lens covering features. Some brands lock their system down hard, only allowing you to use their cameras with their stuff, while others just leave the unique features to their app, but give you access to use it in different ecosystems. So if you already have all your smart home stuff, let's just say you use Google Home, set up in that ecosystem, it might be good to check if your cameras can be added to that ecosystem too. This way, you can view the status of everything that's functioning in your home from just one app instead of 5 different ones, and set up whatever automation you want based off of that. However, if you do end up buying a camera that locks you into a particular ecosystem, like I did with the Google Nest doorbell, there's ways to escape it. That is, if you're tech savvy and don't mind tinkering and some occasional maintenance. But fair warning, it's not perfect, and I really only suggest more tech-savvy folks look into this. So look into Home Assistant, Homebridge, or Scripted. These are all apps that install on one of your computers that then sits in your network and takes your cameras and gets them working in all the major smart home platforms. Okay, so far we talked a lot about all these different features and functions that these cameras are capable of, but how do I know what type of camera to get? You may be enticed by cameras that tap 4K or ultra-wide lenses, but at the same time, you should also worry about frame rate. Frame rate dictates how many images per second the camera can show for that resolution. So higher frame rate means less stuttery, but also more storage. Maybe having one 4K 30 frames per second camera isn't so bad, but once that becomes 3 or 4 or even 5 cameras, now you could be looking at big recordings that need really beefy hard drives if you're recording locally. There's other factors that play a huge role in camera image quality too, like sensor size for low light performance and recording quality. So one 4K camera could be completely different from another one from brand to brand. So if you're the type of person who pixel peeps and wants to see the most detail as possible out of their cameras, I suggest you look at other people's reviews or videos for those cameras, like from this smart home security camera focused channel called Lifehackster. He does a lot of different videos detailing the performance of different smart home cameras, and even from different distances and different environments. But do keep in mind that platforms like YouTube and Amazon can impact the quality too. Like the videos that I do upload on here look way better on my computer than what actually ends up on YouTube. Beyond that, while having a large field of view on a camera is great, it really depends on the location and coverage. A large field of view can really distort how an image looks, so everything has a trade-off. But cameras can also have unique functionality too, like motion sensitivity to control how close a moving object is before it triggers a recording, detection and privacy zones, so you're able to limit the area your camera is reacting to and recording, two-way audio with speakers and mics built directly onto the camera, and IR modes for nighttime recording. These features could be important to you, so make sure the cameras that you're getting have the features that you want. Basically, write down what you want out of a camera system so it's easy to compare and cross-shop different brands and ecosystems to get the features that you want, because there's a ton of them. But also don't feel obligated to get exactly the same camera for each area that you're covering. There are different types of cameras for different jobs. It's a lot to take in, and you really have to do your research at this part. All right, now that we know all about these different cameras, you gotta figure out where to place these things. The goal of camera placement is to capture as much space as you can with the cameras that you have. I'm not going to disclose my entire setup for security reasons, but I'll touch on some of the main points. With outdoor cameras, you'll want to minimize blind spots. On a basic rectangular shaped home, the best spots are the edges. This way you have cameras facing about 45 degrees inward so that you can cover basically the entire exterior of the home. But on properties with more edges and angles, the more cameras that you may want to get to cover those different blind spots. From there, at your front door, you can have a doorbell camera like everyone else does. just so that you can see who's at the front door and cover that blind spot if you have a covered entryway. For indoor cameras, you want to avoid bathrooms and bedrooms. Well, for obvious reasons. And so for me personally, for indoor cameras, I just keep a camera in the garage and where my dog sleeps, not for security reasons, but because I sometimes forget to close the garage and this is a sanity check. And plus, I like checking in on my dog sometimes. And this is exactly where I made one of the mistakes, putting a camera in the center of a room instead of in the corner. It leaves all of this area unseeable, but if it was in the corner of the garage, you'd be able to see the entire space. My rationale at the time was that I wanted to be able to see what was coming through the garage door a lot better. However, from this corner view, we're still able to clearly see what's coming through the garage door. So I screwed myself over there. Okay, so now that we know what and where to place our equipment, what am I using for my own home setup? For my home networking, I use Ubiquiti products. So I already had a UDM Pro SE that I purchased, which is their gateway that lets you use a lot of the Ubiquiti applications. So the UDM Pro SE acts as both a central hub for my home network, like in this video right here, and as an NVR hub for their Protect lineup of cameras. So from there, I'm using a few of these G5 bullet cameras on the exterior of my home and their G3 instant cameras for indoor use. However, I always try my best to be transparent, and Ubiquiti did send over 2 different camera units over. Their AI Pro, which records in 4K and labels license plates and faces, as well as their G5 Pro, which shoots in 4K. All the other cameras and the UDM Pro SE are products that I purchased myself. The Ubiquiti AI Pro camera has great features that you would want in a main camera that you place in the front of the house to get the most detail possible in the spot with the most foot and car traffic. These cameras are bullet style and are all PoE, meaning I just need an Ethernet connection for both power and data. And since these are all cameras from the same brand, I'm able to control all of these cameras from a single app, and Ubiquiti allows a lot of control over these cameras too. But I do have some non-Ubiquiti cameras in my home, like an older Google Nest doorbell and an Aqara Camera Hub G3 that sits in the hallway and lets me swivel it around to see what's going on in my hallway. Basically, I got the main indoors and outdoor areas covered pretty well. And because these cameras don't all play nicely together, they all use different apps and they don't all work in the same smart home platform, I used Home Assistant to make them all work in my Apple Home, my preferred smart home platform. And so now I can see all of my cameras on a single app and use Apple HomeKit Secure Video to have cloud recordings that I can access. So this means all of my cameras have both local and cloud backups in some way, except the Nest doorbell camera, because Google wants to be a pain in the butt for those sweet subscription fees. I haven't personally fully tried it yet, but I hear Scripted has a subscription-based NVR feature that might be able to fix this. But I'm not going to lose sleep over one camera not being backed up locally. So with all this configuring and research and my own implementation of it, how has it worked out? Well, for me, it's been great. When I'm away from home, I'm able to see everything that's happened, including if I closed the garage and if the dog sitter came by when I'm out of town. When I am at home, I get different angles of when door-to-door salesmen knock on my door so that I can ignore them, when my dog decides to take her precious time doing her business, and I can see just exactly when guests come over for a get-together. Or if I forgot that it was garbage day, I can check the cameras to see if they've showed up already or if I still have enough time to take out the trash can. I do like how my whole setup ended up, even if there are a few hitches here and there with all the different interoperability and forcing them to work. It's not perfect, but works pretty well for my own needs. Alright, so everything that I've said so far is quite nice, but it might be a little overkill for an average home setup. So it's not exactly what I would do if I was starting from scratch. So if I was starting this journey today, here's what I would do. If I lived in an apartment or condo, I really wouldn't worry about any outdoor cameras unless I'm on the first floor, and I would use this camera for the porch. I'd really focus on cheaper, versatile Wi-Fi cameras with local micro SD card backup. Pick ones that have support for your preferred smart home platform, the features you want, and make sure that the app is usable. Try to stick to just one brand, so that's just much more easy to manage, and that if you do end up paying subscription costs for that cloud storage, it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg across 5 different brands. And by sticking to one brand, you don't have to use 5 different apps to control and manage all of these different cameras. I've used Wyze cameras before for inexpensive indoor cameras. These are pretty cheap, but I would say get something with pan or tilt functionality because that lets your indoor cam be way more versatile, like this Tapo one or this other Wyze camera. And that's actually why I'm using the Aqara Camera Hub G3, because it gives me pan and tilt functionality and I can see the entire view of my hallway through it. Just pick what camera works best for your smart home. But do keep in mind that most, if not all, cloud recording providers will charge for cloud recording features. But that's expected. They gotta pay their bills for hosting the files and storing them, and of course, build in some sort of profit margin. And then once I move into my own place, a place that I own, I would reuse the indoor cameras I mentioned, but add a nice wired outdoor system for the most robust, feature-rich setup. And if this is where you're starting, I would say aim for PoE systems, where you only need a powered Ethernet cable for both power and data to its central hub. This saves you the trouble of needing to route 2 wires to wherever you're mounting these cameras, and just down to 1. And while it is a pain to set up wired systems, and you might potentially be drilling holes in the wall, these are a set it and forget it kind of thing. So in the future, you'll never have to replace batteries. And if one day you do want to replace a PoE camera system, all the wiring is there for a brand new PoE system already. 2 common DIY options in this category for residential use are Lorex and Reolink. And I'm sure they're good systems with their own pros and cons, but I've only tried Ubiquity. This is my first home after all, so I'll talk about the features that I got through this system. I like that their app gives me a ton of customizability for each and every camera. I love that I can view the cameras from anywhere without a subscription. They work without a hitch with like 99% uptime. However, they don't support smart home platforms, so I had to use Home Assistant to make them work with Apple HomeKit. And then from there, use Apple HomeKit Secure Video to have cloud recordings. Even with that lack of smart home integration, I figured it out. So overall, I'm satisfied with them, even if their offerings are on the more expensive side. Okay, so that's everything that I've learned about home cameras up until this point. It's tough out there with so many different options and so many different things to consider. So I hope that this makes your life a little easier in some way, and now that we can all safely lay in bed without fear of that serial killer. Anyway, what do you personally think? Did this video help you in any way in your own home camera journey? What did you find most helpful? What did you find this video was lacking? What are some additional tips that you would provide? Leave all that down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and well, I'll see you all next time. Bye.